जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानन्दना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना जय यशोदानन्दना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना जय ब्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोपी जन वल्लभा राधा गोपी जन वल्लभा जय निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर His Divine Grace Sadhachara Naravind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर His Divine Grace Shishan Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री शिव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ चर गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गोपी जन वल्लभा गोप गोपीनाथ श्यामा कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री चक्र धाम की जय श्री गंगा मैया यमुना मैया की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय समवैत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंद हरि all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees. All glories, all glories, lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Shila Prabhupada ki jai. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantu Dehopapattaye Striya Pravishta Udaram Pumsho Reta Kanashraya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantu Dehopapattaye Striya Pravishta Udaram Pumsho Reta Kanashraya. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Jantu Dehopapattaye Striya Pravishta Udaram Pumsho Reta Kanashraya. Synonyms. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Karmana, by the result of work, Daiva Nitrena, under the supervision of the Lord, Jantuhu, the living entity, Deha, a body, Upapattaye, for obtaining, Striya, of a woman, Pravishta, enters, Udaram, the womb, Pumshaha, of a man, Retaha, of semen, Kana, a particle, Ashraya, dwelling in. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: The Personality of Godhead said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of His work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. We'll read the translation once again. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of His work. If you see, this is one of the very famous verses spoken by Kapila Muni. Very, very frequently, Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse. Karmana Daiva Netrena. Karmana means based on one karma, and Daiva Netrena. Daiva means basically referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Netra is the basically eyes. Netrena means under his supervision. Daiva Netrina means under the supervision or under the guidance of the Supreme Lord and the karma factor. Jantur Deho Papattaye. Jantur is the living entity. Deha means body. Upapattaye means to get a Deha, the living entity. Striya Pravishta. Um, Striya is a woman. Stri. And Pravishta, it's very close word. There is an Hindi, it's called Pravesh. Pravesh means to enter. Pravishta and Udar, we know Damodar. Udar means the belly or the womb, referring to the womb here. Istriya Pravishta Udaram enters the womb. Pumso Retaha Kana Ashraya. Kana is a particle, and Reta is semen. In a particle, the jantur, the living entity, to get the body enters into the womb of a stri through pumso is referring to a man um through the particle of a semen of a man, and that's how. And this uh, process is based on one's karma of the living entity of where he's supposed to take birth, and also karma of the parents who is supposed to take birth from them. So there is a combined karma, and this happens directly under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, Daivanetrina. Once again, translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of, I mean, very interesting. Mm. One thing that I was thinking, see, it also says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, just like Bhagavad Gita. Vyasadeva always says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So referring to Kapila is referred not as Kapila Uvacha but Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. And Prabhupada says the personality of Godhead. Um, under the, I mean, one thing I was thinking is, I mean, he's a personality of Godhead. Very interestingly, Prabhupada says in the word to word meaning Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the translation, it says personality of Godhead. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually Krishna, and he's an incarnation, so he's also a personality of Godhead. Anyways, the personality of Godhead said under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. Daiva Nityana is very important. It does not say uh, Triguna Nityana under the supervision of the material nature, but it says that this um, the child taking a birth or a living entity entering into the womb of a mother directly happens under the Supreme Lord's supervision. Under the supervision of Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, both combined. And also we see that nothing happens without the supervision of the Lord. We may not be able to see that. That's why we try to see from the eyes of the scriptures. We see even when the creation takes place, um, water, when touched by the glance of the Supreme Lord and the time factor, results into earth. Air, when touched by the glance of the Supreme Lord, along with the time element, gets converted into water. Ether into uh, uh, fire, air, like that. Ether into fire, fire to air, air to ether, no, ether to air, air to fire, fire to water, water to earth, and everything happens by the glance of the Supreme Lord. And here the living entity is transferred also under the supervision, Daivanetrina. So the Lord presence is required. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman. And that's also clearly shows that the living entity has no role here. The living entity has no role where he is going to take birth. The living entity is in a dormant state. The living entity is pushed, and the living entity, when he comes out of the womb of a mother, then he has free will, and based on his um, use of his free will, his karma is decided. But once he leaves, he is completely under the control of either the devatas or the yamadutas, or like in this case, under the supervision of Supreme Lord and the karma factor. He's just helplessly getting passed through various phases. And when he comes to human form, then he can make his choices. Therefore, Thato Brahma Jigyasa. Having taken a human form, rightly use your free will in in the service of the Lord. Today I was in the morning I was listening to a lecture, Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj. Very nice lecture Maharaj was giving. Um, Maharaj was mentioning about the habit of a successful spiritualist. And Maharaj mentioned that they are driven and they do not waste time and they have a to-do list and they have smart goals. Again, they are driven, they have a to-do list. That to-do list has smart goals. Smart means we know um, specific, measurable, time-bound, um, realistic. Like these are smart goals. Means they know what to do. They they don't waste time. They have a to-do list. They are driven in whichever direction we may be driven. But the driven has to be in a spiritual direction for a successful spiritualist. Because Krishna says, those who are driven, um, um, Bhoga Aishwarya Prasakta Nam, or another one is uh, Maya Paharita Chetasam, um, those who are attached to Bhog and Aishwarya. Um, where so now vidiyate, the um, determination for devotional service does not take place in them. But those who are determined, those who are driven, self-driven, those who have goals, and those who are working to attain those goals. Very nice points. Maharaj mentioned, if you see the life of a spiritualist and if you see the qualities of a spiritualist, you can know that he or she will be successful, um, just by seeing them. And Maharaj says, this I have learned from my own experience of observing other devotees of the Lord and how they act and how they work. Hmm. So the soul is made to enter into the womb, and it's like soul is made to enter. The soul does not have any choice. The soul does not have free will here. After the soul leaves the body, it's like completely bound by one's own karma. One goes where one goes, just like keep going. And even we see, even animal life, keep doing based on the modes of nature. And then when then the soul is forced or made to enter under the supervision of the Lord, and now you are free to act in a way. Now you have choices. The soul is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of a male semen to assume a particular type of body. And Prabhupada, we will see that in the purport also. We also see demoniac people think, um, when a male and female come together, the child is born and there is no soul. But here it is specifically mentioned Reta. Reta means semen, Kana, in a particle of semen, Ashraya. The Jantu take Ashraya, the living entity take Ashraya in a particle of semen that enters the Udar, the womb of a Istri. And through that, Deho Papattaye, he receives a Deha, he obtains a Deha. This happens under Daivanetrin, supervision of the Lord and one's own karma. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, as stated in the last chapter, after suffering different kinds of hellish conditions, a man comes again to the human form of body. Once based on, so previous chapter there is a whole description. There is a human form of body. Based on our activities in human form of body, if we commit different sinful activities. Um, the the desire for sinful activities will be there. Those desires are arising from the influence of the three modes. Mode of passion, mode of ignorance, give rise to irreligion or give rise to sinful desires. Mode of goodness, um, like good karma, but passion, ignorance give rise to sinful desires. Modes are is a type of force. They we are impelled, or we are impelled to act in a certain direction. Those sinful desires are also the result of our past karma, um, but they can be negated by knowledge. They can be negated by spiritual strength. Krishna says, lust cannot be overcome. Kama Shakrodesha Krishna. Lust can be overcome by um, spiritual strength. So whatever is arising from the whatever sinful desires is arising from one's past karma can be negated by uh, Krishna says adequate intelligence or sharpened intelligence and spiritual strength. Intelligence is sharpened by knowledge, by Shastra. So by Shravanam, by hearing. So by knowledge and by sadhana, by spiritual strength, one one becomes strong to say no to sinful desires which are arising from one's past karma. Now those who act based on one's past karma, which we were all sinful. I mean, many of us may be sinful before we came to Krishna consciousness. Not that now we are sin free. Um, we are working on it, but we were like completely sinful before we came to Krishna consciousness. Um, um, and based on our karma, there are desires. Based on desires, we act, and those things are noted down. And then based on all of our activities, we are taken to the lower hellish planets, 28 hellish planets, which are below the Patal Lok. Um, then we are made to go through the sufferings that are destined for a living entity based on one's activities. Having having gone through the tenure that one is destined for, one takes birth in the animal kingdom, in a cat, in a dog, hog, in different animal kingdom, and gradually, under the supervision of the Lord and one's karma, one is gradually, then one is made to enter into the womb of a mother to get a particular type of body. And that particular type and Prabhupada says it is true for any species, but here specifically it is referring to a human form. Striya refers to woman and Pumsa refers to male, to a human form directly. Okay. The man comes again to the human form of light. This is continuing. The same topic is continued in this chapter. The last chapter, number 30, ended with the second last verse says, the living entity who maintains the family by illegal means is made to enter into a hell called Andhata Mishra. From there, after a destined tenure, destined time there, the last verse of the last chapter says he is forced to enter into a animal form. And now it begins with Sri Bhagwan Uvacha Karmana Devanetrena. Now he's entered into a womb of a Istri, but through the particle of semen. A man comes again to the human form of body. The same topic is continued in this chapter. In order to give a particular type of human form to a person who has already suffered hellish life, the soul is transferred to the semen of a man who is just suitable to become his father. What kind of parents we get is also based on one's karma. During sexual intercourse, the soul is transferred through the semen of the father into the mother's womb in order to produce a particular type of body. Whichever soul is um, destined, which happens under Daivanetrina, gets a human body, male or female, also based on one's karma. Um, this process is applicable to all embodied living beings, but it is especially mentioned for the man who was transferred to the Andhata Mishra hell. Man, Andhata Mishra, animal body. After suffering there, when he who had many types of hellish bodies, like those of dogs and hogs, is to come again to human form. Human life, Andhata Mishra, dogs and hogs, human life. Andhata Mishra, dogs and hogs, human life. This is no control. Now you act. Again forced. Got a human body. Now you act. Again forced. After suffering there, which is in the Andhata Mishra, when he who who has had many types of hellish bodies like those of dogs and hawks is to come again in the human form. We see last chapter Kapila Muni says that one experiences hell even in this earthly planet. One can experience, one can see the same suffering that exists in hell. One can see the same suffering in earthly planet also. Again, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, when one dies in mode of ignorance, he goes to hell. Another place Krishna says, one who dies in mode of ignorance takes in the takes birth in animal kingdom. So here it's clearly mentioned that Prabhupada very clearly says, who has had many types of hellish bodies like dogs and hogs. So when we see a dog, when we see a hog, people may not understand, but that is also considered a hellish life. Um, we hear people in West world don't understand, mm, and they are okay becoming dogs and hogs. But based on Shastra, um, that's the soul in mode of ignorance. That's why he is made to in those lives. And it is also said one time, Radha Govind Maharaj was mentioning, there are some souls who are very good, spiritual, um, uh, charitable, magnanimous, inclined towards self-realization. They don't come from hell or from animal species. They are most likely coming either continuing from bhakti and directly transferred, like 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Um, Short time devotion, go to heaven and take a human birth. Long time devotion, directly take in the family of transcendentalist. So either they're coming from heaven or they're coming directly from, or they may be coming from Brahma Jyoti, whatever it may be, but they're not coming from hell. Those who come from hell, they are very, like, not at all interested, angry. They have all these qualities that have developed. Um, so most of you are coming from a devotee, but from, for generally speaking. Um, Rupa Goswami says, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, somebody is coming to the point of initiation, chanting 16 rounds, initiated or want to get initiated, certainly must be continuing from previous life. Because those who have no bhakti from previous life, for them to come to one round also will take many years. Or after 10 years also they are chanting 2 rounds, 3 rounds, which is also a benefit. But somebody who within few months or 2 3 years or very quickly become very enthusiastic, driven, want to go back to Godhead, definitely continuing from previous life. Or another way to see how Srila Prabhupada defines is causeless mercy of a pure devotee. Prabhupada says even if one is not advanced, mercy of a pure devotee, causeless mercy of pure devotee can make one advance even though they are not qualified for it. Like how Srila Prabhupada would put it as, I have made your qualification. That is also possible. A pure devotee can deliver anybody from any mode by praying, Krishna, please help this soul. And that's all it needs for a pure devotee. To show his costless mercy, and we are immediately uplifted. Or we may be continuing from previous life. So this process is applicable to all embodied living entities, but it is specially mentioned for a man who was transferred to the Andatamisha hell after suffering there when he has had many types of hellish bodies, like those of dogs and hawks, is to come again to the human form. He is given a chance to take his birth in the same type of body from which he degraded himself to hell. Means from human life, he degraded himself to hell. Now he is awarded the same type of body again. And that's why those kind of sacrifices like Ashwamedh Yagya and others, they are shortcuts. Because even though the person may be in a hellish body, because so many mantras chanted by thousands of Brahmanas are focused on that personality, that who is in a hellish form of life, um, takes a human birth and not ordinary human, but very pure human birth. And that's why if an animal is sacrificed, it's of the greatest benefit for the animal. And that's why it was considered an act of great piety to do that. And Maharaj Yudhishthira performed 4 Ashwamedha Yajna to relieve himself from the sin. But naturally, because um, of the lack of purity of Brahmanas, that is not allowed in this day and age. Everything is done by the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything. Um, Deva Netrena. Material nature supplies the body. Now, material nature role is material nature once under the supervision of the Lord and karma, a particular soul is selected. And then the mother with the elements, 5 elements of her own body, naturally the mind, intelligence, ego is continuing, the subtle body is continuing with the soul, but the Panchadhuta, which happens by the material nature. Material nature controls matter. Uh, we don't control matter. The super soul, only super soul sanctions the jiva desires, and the material nature control matter. So material nature is the one who supplies the body through the medium of a mother. Um, in that way, it is said Durga Devi is our mother also, if we see from the body perspective. But our original father and mother is Aham Bija Pradapita is Shri Krishna. We see from bodily conception or spiritual conception. Material nature supplies the body, but it does so under the direction of the super soul. It is said in, and material nature is also not independent. If she gives us the body, then Lord wants this soul should get. And that also shows Lord is in complete control. Krishna is in complete control. Yesterday, one devotee, he is from like local devotee from the Western world, he was mentioning in Christianity, they say there is a devil and there is God. And they say that devil is independent of God. So this devotee was arguing with the Christian pastor that if devil is independent of God, then how is it possible that somebody not under control of the God? But this is not supported here in our Vedic scripture. Here it says devil there actually he is reading Bhagavad Gita. So he was mentioning this exactly what the devil there is what here means Maya. And clearly Bhagavad Gita says Maya Adhyakshina Prakriti. Prakriti Adhyaksh is me. I am the supreme. And here Prabhupada clearly says material nature supplies the body, but it does so under direction of the super soul. Material nature is helpless. Material nature captures us when Maya captures us, when Krishna withdraws his mercy, then Maya captures us. But when Krishna's mercy is there, Prabhupada says, if you have Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada says Maya cannot touch you. And Prabhupada said, that's why I'm always praying to Krishna, Krishna, please protect me from Maya. So Maya cannot touch me, Prabhupada. But actually, we don't have that mercy, because now what stops us from becoming the recipient of Krishna's mercy is either offenses or sins, either offenses or sinful activities. Then we become, we then the mercy is withdrawn. When mercy is withdrawn, then Maya is overpowered, has an overpowering effect on us. But otherwise, with the mercy of the Lord, Maya cannot touch us. Material nature supplies the body. Prabhupada says, in this day and age, it is very, very difficult, especially in the age of Kali, very, very difficult to make progress in one's Krishna consciousness, because the environment is surcharged with passion, ignorance. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only is this possible. We hear Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, most difficult thing becomes easy. And the most difficult thing is actually uh, to not be overcome by Maya, because the force is too high in this age of Kali. Environment is surcharged. Everyone is helpless. But in that environment also, one can be focused and make progress in Krishna consciousness. That is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who takes shelter can overcome. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that the living entity is wandering in this material world on a chariot made by material nature. Um, Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantara Rurani Maya. 18th chapter says that. Living entity are sitting in a chariot, in a body. This body is made of, it says, Yantara Rurani Maya. So Prabhupada is always, whatever he says, he quotes Shastra. So Krishna says that yantra in which the jiva is doing Brahman, wandering here and there to fulfill his desires, that is made of Maya. And here also it says the material nature provides the body. Uh, the living entity is wandering in this material world on a chariot made by material nature. The supreme Lord as super soul is always present with the individual soul, and this is Lord's mercy. Lord is um, mm, directly or indirectly conscious of everything. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. um, Janmadi Asayata Itirita Chatesh Abhigyaswara. He is directly Itiritas. He is directly or indirectly, the Lord is conscious of everything. Why? Because the Lord is all pervading. Lord enters with us, and within his supervision is very minutely, he is completely in control. Within his supervision is it happening, but once a human form is taken, then he only watches. Two birds sitting on the same tree, one is tasting the fruits, which is the happiness and and distress of this material world. One is simply watching and sanctioning. Whatever misery is coming, he sanctions. Whatever good karma is coming, he is sanctioning. And whatever jiva is doing, he is watching. And once the jiva leaves, then Supreme Lord is in full control, and everything happens under his supervision. When the living entity goes to hell and suffers, super soul is there. When he goes into hellish body of dogs and hawks, super soul is there. When then he is again super soul is there. And then he is basically very personal in charge of everything that the living entity does, very um, directly in contact. And then he was like, okay, what do you do now, sir? All right, so this is now, what will you do in this human world? All right, now next, now what will you do here, sir? Um, but the super soul gives full awakening to the child in the womb. And he sees his past previous births, he sees the Lord, everything is clear. Like Maharaj Parikshit in the womb can see. Likewise, the living entity also is self-realized, comes again. So, which mode are you going to act on? Which, and then continue, cycle continues. The Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, is always present with the individual soul. He directs material nature to supply a particular type of body to the individual soul according to the result of his work. Based on his karma, he supplies a particular type of body. Okay, what is your next body, next body, next body? According to the result of his work. He directs material nature to supply. That's how he directs the material nature to supply a particular type of body. And that's how there is a supervision. He does not directly supply, but he directs material nature supplies based on the individual soul's karma, and the material nature supplies it. Here one word, retaha kanashraya. Kan means particle, reta is semen, ashraya means the soul takes shelter of a particle of semen and enters into the womb of a mother. Here one word, reta kana ashraya, is very significant because it indicates that it is not the semen of a man that creates life within the womb of a woman. Rather, living entity, the soul, takes shelter in a particle of semen and is then pushed into the womb of a woman. Then the body develops. There is no possibility of creating a living entity without the presence of the soul simply by sexual intercourse. The materialistic theory that there is no soul and that a child is born simply by material combination of the sperm and ovum is not feasible. It is unacceptable. There has soul is there. Demoniac people think the living entity is a product of sexual desire, but he is not a product of sexual desire. He is a product of the supervision of the Lord and the karma and the spirit self. That is the cause of the life. Okay, that's all from this verse. If there any discussion, we can take any questions. All right, we'll end here. Thank you all for joining.
Prabhuji,
Vanshika,
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Pradam Prabhuji, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Prabhuji, one small question that is mostly faced when people are in grief, and like the statement comes, if Krishna had to take it back, why did he send the child for 2 years, 3 years? That time, what do we answer, Prabhuji? Because it's a very,
If Krishna has to,
if Krishna had to take the child back, like in 2, 3 years, it happens, right? Some calamity strikes and the children die. And mostly it seemed like people shake, even the faith shakes, Prabhuji. So how do we answer this question at that time?
well, I mean, between us, Shastrically, the shake of Chitraketu's wife was shaking. He said the Supreme Lord is certainly very immature, that he has given us the child, and now, when the child was only 5 years old, he has taken the life, and the child has now died. And Chitraketu Maharaj's wife lost faith in cursing the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says that is a sign of immaturity. Then the child was brought back, and the child told Maharaj Chitraketu that this much time was destined for me in this body. Now, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, whatever was in my destiny, I lived that much, and now I'm moving on to my next destiny. And when Maharaj Chitraketu heard that, by the mercy of Narada, Maharaj Chitraketu became self-realized that this is a human form of life, this is an opportunity. Let me use this opportunity in a right direction. Otherwise, everything is under the control of the Lord. And there is nothing, that the Lord is responsible. Everything, the Jiva is responsible. The Lord is the sanctioning authority. But when it comes to somebody who does not have that faith, and they go through grief, um, I mean, I personally tell the truth, and with compassion, but the truth. Um, we say, I mean, I say, somehow or other, it is not the best thing that would have happened. It is very grief moment, but that was destined. It had to happen. Nobody is responsible for it. Let's focus on how do we take it now. Is it all? We see, Mataji, think about it. Narad Muni, no, Chitraketu Maharaj was dying. I mean, because of grief. His wife was crying. Narad Muni spoke the truth. And actually, there is a lot of solace in the truth. We sometimes feel like the truth will be very harsh on them. We don't use the word directly like it was their bad karma that they had to die. That is little uncompassionate. But still, if you read that chapter, how Narad Muni handled the situation and what truth he spoke. He glorified the Lord. He says there are the modes, there is the Lord, everything is happening under supervision of the Lord. He's like, whatever our philosophy is, Narad Muni is telling, in that state too, Maharaj Chitraketu received the mantra of Sankarshan, chanted in 7 days, he saw Sankarshan also. So that may be a helpful reference. Is that all right, Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, this is like I was confused. For devotees, we can speak like this. People who don't know, it's a little hard, Prabhuji.
If you speak with compassion, they will understand. If we speak with a hard heart, they will feel disturbed. But if we speak with love, they will understand.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll end here. Thank you all for joining. Vanchakal Patarubhesha, Kripasindu Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhya Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha, Ananda Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai. If I spoke anything inappropriate, please forgive me as a humble servant. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Shyamanand Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Ananda
Hare
Koti.
Krishna.
Hare.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.